When war reached her throne, the human princess drew her blade. The city was alive, with aircars gliding smoothly between the gleaming buildings, merchants calling out their wares in the bustling markets, and citizens moving about in orderly fashion. It was a city that spoke of human achievement, technology and tradition blending into a civilization proud of its accomplishments. And at the heart of it all stood the palace, a grand structure of marble and steel, crowned with the banners of the human empire. Here, the future of Erendor rested on the shoulders of a young princess. Princess Celara moved quietly through the halls of the palace, her boots echoing softly against the polished floor. She had always walked these corridors with a sense of purpose, but today felt different. Today, she could feel the weight of the empire pressing upon her. She was only 22, yet she carried the knowledge and expectation that one day she would rule. But rule meant more than ceremony and diplomacy. It meant protection, defense, and if needed, courage in the face of danger. Her morning began with lessons in strategy, overseen by Admiral Corin, the veteran of many battles and her mentor since childhood. He watched her closely as she studied star maps and military reports. "You must learn to see the whole battlefield before you act," he said, his voice steady. "Do not let fear cloud your judgment, but do not underestimate the enemy either." Celara nodded, absorbing every word. She had always respected Corin's experience. He had led human fleets against pirates, rogue colonies, and alien threats before, and his advice had always proven true. But today, even Corin seemed uneasy. Reports had come from the edge of human-controlled space. A fleet of Zythurian ships, tall, dark vessels that glowed faintly with energy, was moving closer to Erendor's sector. They were known for their tactical brilliance and relentless expansion. Human scouts had intercepted communications, suggesting that the Zythurians sought control over some of Erendor's key resources, particularly a rare energy crystal found only on the northern continents. Celara stared at the map, the tiny lights representing alien ships moving steadily toward her home planet. Her heart beat faster, not with fear but with anticipation. She had been trained for this. She had been preparing for this. Still, seeing it so close, so real, sent a shiver down her spine. "Do you believe they will strike?" she asked Corin quietly. He shook his head. "I do not know, but I trust your instincts. You have a gift for reading situations, Princess. Trust it." After the morning lessons, Celara retreated to the training grounds. Her ceremonial blade hung at her side, a gleaming weapon with intricate carvings along its hilt. Though it was often used in ceremonies, she had trained with it daily, learning every movement, every angle, every defensive maneuver. Today, she needed more than skill. She needed focus. She moved through the forms, her body fluid and precise, every step a calculated motion. Her mind was calm, her breathing steady, yet her eyes remained sharp, alert to any change in the wind, the sun, or the shadows. In the palace gardens, she practiced alone, imagining enemy forces surrounding her, imagining herself leading soldiers into battle. Hours passed and the day grew hotter. By mid-afternoon, Celara had finished her practice. Sweat clung to her skin, but she felt stronger than she had that morning. Strength was not only physical, she reminded herself, it was mental, strategic, and emotional. It was the ability to act when others hesitated. The calm of the palace was interrupted by the sudden arrival of Zythurian emissaries. They were small, sleek beings with elongated limbs and shimmering gray skin. Their large black eyes betrayed nothing, but their posture was formal, almost arrogant. They had come under the pretense of diplomacy, offering talks to settle disputes peacefully. Celara met them in the grand hall, her posture straight, her gaze unwavering. She could sense the tension in her advisors, the unease in the room. The emissaries spoke in a melodious, precise language, their translator devices converting each word into human speech. "Our fleet approaches your world," said the lead emissary. "We seek a fair negotiation for the crystals in your northern territories. Resistance would be unfortunate." Celara listened carefully, her mind calculating every possible outcome. She understood their meaning clearly: submit or face the consequences. She replied calmly, "Erendor has always sought peace, but our people will never bow to force. We are willing to discuss terms, but any attempt at intimidation will not succeed." The emissary's black eyes narrowed slightly. He gave a polite, almost imperceptible nod and left. But the threat lingered in the air. The human court murmured anxiously, their fear palpable. That evening, Solara walked along the balcony of the palace, looking over the city. Lights shimmered as aircars flew past, citizens moving unaware of the looming danger. She felt a pang of responsibility. These people trusted her to protect them, even though many did not yet know the true threats facing Urindor. Admiral Corrin joined her, his presence steadying. "You carry much on your shoulders," he said quietly, "but you do not carry it alone. The fleet, the soldiers, and your people, they will follow your lead." Solara nodded. "I know, but what if diplomacy fails? What if war comes anyway?" Corrin's gaze turned to the horizon, where the stars began to twinkle in the coming night. "Then we fight. And we do not fight as subjects, we fight as humans. We fight with ingenuity, courage, and willpower. That is something no enemy can predict." Solara felt a surge of determination. She would not be a passive ruler waiting for events to unfold. She would act and she would lead. That night, as the city slept, she studied the star maps again. The Zythurian fleet had grown closer. Sensors reported larger formations, and scouts noted the construction of additional warships in orbit. Each report confirmed her fears. The threat was real, imminent, and dangerous. Yet Solara did not falter. She made plans in secret, coordinating with Corrin and her most trusted advisors. They prepared evacuation protocols, defensive strategies, and contingency plans. Every move was calculated to protect the city, the people, and the throne she would one day inherit. In the quiet hours before dawn, Solara sat alone in the palace armory, her hand resting on the hilt of her blade. The metal felt cold and solid, a reminder of human craftsmanship and skill. She closed her eyes and imagined herself standing on the front lines, facing the enemy, her people watching, relying on her. Her thoughts wandered to the stories she had learned as a child, the legends of human resilience, of heroes who faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. They were not just stories, they were lessons. They taught her that courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. The first alarms came as the sun broke the horizon. Scouts reported alien ships at the edge of Urindor's defensive perimeter. The fleet had arrived, and with it, the shadow of war. Solara moved quickly, assembling her advisors and military leaders in the council chamber. She spoke with clarity, her voice firm and unwavering. "The Zythurians have come. They test us with their presence, but we will not falter. We will defend our homes, our people, and our planet. Every soldier, every civilian who can contribute will play a part. We will show them the strength of humanity." Her words inspired the room. The fear that had lingered in the eyes of some was replaced with resolve. People began to move with purpose, preparing defenses, securing resources, and readying the fleet. As the day unfolded, the first skirmishes occurred at the outskirts of the city. Human patrols met small Zythurian forces, testing their strength and tactics. Solara monitored each engagement, learning from every encounter, adjusting strategies in real time. The aliens were precise and calculating, but human adaptability gave them an edge in unexpected moments. By evening, news came that a larger portion of the Zythurian fleet had entered orbit. The situation was serious, yet Solara did not despair. She called Admiral Corrin to her side and said, "Prepare the city for a full assault. But remember this, we fight not just with weapons, but with our minds. We will find their weakness." Corrin nodded, a hint of pride in his expression. He had trained many leaders, but Solara's resolve was unlike any he had seen. As night fell, the lights of Urindor shone against the darkness of space. From the palace balcony, Solara gazed upward, toward the alien fleet that now loomed in the stars above her home. She felt the weight of her responsibility, but she also felt a spark of determination that burned brighter than any fear. The princess drew her blade from its scabbard, the metal gleaming in the starlight. It was more than a weapon. It was a symbol of human resilience, of the courage that would guide her through the trials to come. And though war had reached her throne, Solara was ready. She would face it, not as a passive ruler, but as a leader, a protector, and a warrior. Tomorrow, the true test would begin. The morning sun rose over Urindor, casting a pale light on a city bracing for war. The streets were quieter than usual, with citizens either sheltering in prepared bunkers or moving swiftly under the supervision of palace guards. The air buzzed with tension, but also determination. Humans were preparing for something they had faced many times before, an enemy that underestimated their courage, ingenuity, and unity. Princess Solara stood on the palace balcony, her eyes scanning the horizon. The Zythurian fleet had grown larger overnight, massive dark ships floating in the upper atmosphere like predators circling their prey. Sensors reported energy signatures that rivaled anything the human defense systems had ever encountered. The fleet had begun to position itself strategically, testing defenses and probing for weaknesses. Solara felt the weight of responsibility settle deeper in her chest. She had spent years preparing for this, but preparation could never fully replace action. Every decision she made in the next hours could determine the survival of her people. Admiral Corrin joined her, his presence calm yet firm. "They are assessing our defenses," he said, pointing toward the distant ships. "They are looking for an opening. We must respond carefully." Solara turned to him, determination burning in her eyes. "We cannot wait for them to strike first. We need to take control of the situation. Every move they make, we will anticipate it. Humans adapt, Corrin. That is our advantage." The Admiral nodded, a faint smile crossing his face. "Indeed, then we shall show them the strength of human ingenuity." Within the palace, the council chamber, was a flurry of activity. Military commanders, engineers, and advisors moved between holographic maps and communication consoles. Solara took her place at the center, her presence commanding attention. She was no longer just a princess. She was the leader of the planet's defense. "Reports indicate the outer districts are experiencing light bombardment," she said. "The goal is intimidation. The Zythurians want to see us flinch. We will not." A young officer spoke up. "Princess, our scout drones have detected a squadron of Zythurian assault crafts moving toward the northern supply lines. They could cut off critical resources." Solara's eyes narrowed. "Then we intercept them. We cannot allow them to isolate any part of the city. Deploy the human defense units and set traps along the northern approaches. Use our terrain to our advantage. Show them that humans do not surrender easily." As orders were given, Solara and Corrin moved to the command deck. From there, they could monitor the battlefield in real time. The holographic displays showed incoming enemy forces, their movements precise and calculated. The Zythurians were patient, but that patience could be used against them. The first skirmishes began in the outer sectors of the city. Human patrols, small but skilled, engaged the Zythurian forces, using the city's architecture to create ambush points. Narrow alleyways, high towers, and hidden tunnels allowed humans to strike quickly and retreat before the aliens could adapt. Solara watched the battle unfold, analyzing every movement. She noticed a pattern in the Zythurian strategy. Their forces were strong and fast, but their command relied heavily on automated coordination. They expected predictable responses, and that expectation was their weakness. "We can exploit their reliance on automation," she said to Corrin. "If we create unexpected maneuvers, they will hesitate. That hesitation will give us the advantage." Corrin's eyes glimmered with approval. "A risky plan, Princess, but it has potential. Proceed." Solara coordinated with engineers and military leaders to implement a series of traps and diversions. Decoy drones mimicked troop movements, drawing Zythurian attention away from key positions. Explosive charges were hidden in strategic locations, triggered remotely to disrupt alien formations. Every action was precise, every move calculated to maximize impact while minimizing human casualties. Meanwhile, Solara did not remain behind the command console. She moved among the troops, her presence inspiring confidence. Soldiers straightened their posture when she approached, feeling a surge of courage from the sight of their princess standing with them, unafraid and resolute. By midday, the northern supply lines had become a battlefield. Human engineers had sabotaged bridges and transport routes, forcing Zythurian forces into choke points. The aliens struggled to adapt, their automated strategies unable to respond to the clever improvisations of humans. Solara observed from a vantage point atop a city tower, her blade at her side, ready to act if the battle came closer to the palace. The first true confrontation came when a squad of Zythurian assault crafts attempted a direct attack on the palace outskirts. Humans had prepared for this. Solara's forces engaged with coordinated precision, using energy shields, rapid strikes, and counterattacks to repel the enemy. During the engagement, Solara noticed a small group of civilians trapped near a collapsing structure. Without hesitation, she leapt down from her position, moving swiftly through the chaos. Her blade cut through debris and obstacles, clearing a path for the civilians to escape. Every step demonstrated her training, her courage, and her willingness to act. By the time she returned to the command deck, the civilians were safe, and her soldiers had gained a strategic advantage. The day wore on, and the intensity of the battle grew. Zythurian forces adjusted their tactics, attempting to bypass human defenses and strike directly at the city's core. Selara anticipated these moves, coordinating countermeasures that forced the aliens into disadvantageous positions. Her strategic mind was a weapon as powerful as any blade or ship. By late afternoon, news came from the palace's northern gate. A large Zythurian landing party had breached the outer walls. Panic could have spread among the defenders, but Selara remained calm. She drew her blade and led a group of elite soldiers to confront the intruders. The clash was fierce. The Zythurians were formidable, their strength enhanced by advanced exosuits and energy weapons. Yet humans fought with determination, using every advantage the terrain offered. Selara moved with precision, her blade flashing as she deflected attacks, created openings, and led her soldiers in coordinated strikes. Every action inspired those around her, and soon the alien landing party found themselves retreating, unable to withstand human ingenuity and courage. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the city of Urindor remained standing, though scars of battle marked its streets and buildings. Smoke rose from the northern sectors, mingling with the glow of emergency lights. Citizens emerged from shelters, witnessing the human defense in action and the bravery of their princess. In the council chamber, Selara and Corin reviewed reports. The Zythurians had suffered significant losses, but the fleet in orbit remained a threat. Selara's mind raced, calculating next moves. She knew this was only the beginning. The aliens would return stronger and more determined. "We have held them for now," she said, her voice calm but resolute. "But we cannot underestimate their persistence. We must prepare for a larger assault." Corin placed a hand on her shoulder. "You led well today, Princess. Your people witnessed your courage. That is as important as any victory. They will follow you because of it." Selara nodded, feeling the weight of both relief and responsibility. She had proven herself in action, but she also understood the challenge ahead. Urindor was strong, but the Zythurians were relentless. The real test was yet to come. That night, Selara walked the palace gardens, her blade at her side. The stars above reflected the lights of the Zythurian fleet, a silent reminder of the danger that loomed. She thought of the citizens, the soldiers, and the families she was sworn to protect. Every life mattered, and every decision she made could alter the fate of her planet. In the quiet, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. She recalled the lessons of her mentors, the stories of past heroes, and the resilience that defined humanity. She realized that the battle was not only fought with weapons or strategies, but with spirit and courage. The Zythurians could have superior technology, but they could not replicate determination, ingenuity, or hope. As the first light of a new day crept over the horizon, Selara returned to the command deck. The Zythurian fleet had withdrawn slightly, regrouping in orbit, but the threat remained. She studied the star maps, planning the next phase of defense. She knew that the coming battles would be more intense, testing both her leadership and the courage of her people. Yet she was ready. She had led her forces with clarity and bravery, inspired hope in her citizens, and demonstrated that humanity would not surrender to fear. The princess had drawn her blade, not just as a symbol, but as an active instrument of defense. And with each decision, she proved that humans could face overwhelming odds and emerge resilient. Tomorrow, the Zythurians would return, and the battle for the throne of Urindor would escalate. But Princess Selara stood prepared, ready to face whatever came with courage, strategy, and the unwavering spirit of humanity. The city of Urindor still bore the scars of the first day of battle. Buildings were shattered, streets were scarred with scorch marks, and the smoke of fires lingered in the evening air. Yet the human spirit remained unbroken. Citizens who had emerged from shelters worked alongside soldiers, clearing debris, tending to the wounded, and fortifying defenses. The air was tense with anticipation, for the Zythurians had not yet launched their full assault. Princess Selara moved through the city with her personal guard, observing the recovery and the preparations for the coming fight. Her blade hung at her side, a gleaming reminder of both duty and courage. She had spent hours reviewing battle reports, analyzing the enemy's tactics, and planning the next move. She knew that the Zythurians were patient and precise, and that they would strike again when they believed the humans were weakened. In the council chamber, she stood over the holographic display of the city and surrounding territories. "The enemy has regrouped," she said, her voice steady. "Their forces are concentrated near the northern gate, and their fleet remains in orbit, ready to support ground troops. If we wait for them to strike first, we risk losing control of the city. We must act." Admiral Corrin, standing beside her, nodded. "You are right, but this is a risk, Princess. If we move against them prematurely, we may expose our own weaknesses." Salara's eyes met his. "I understand, but the Zythurians rely on predictability and automation. If we take initiative, we can force them into mistakes. Humans adapt. That is our advantage. We will strike where they least expect it, and we will do so together." Her plan was clear: a direct assault on the Zythurian forces threatening the northern gate, combined with diversionary tactics to confuse and fragment their lines. She would not merely defend, she would seize control of the battlefield. As night fell, she led a group of elite soldiers to the outskirts of the city. The shadows of ruined buildings and shattered streets provided cover as they approached the enemy positions. Salara's presence inspired confidence. Her soldiers moved with precision, trusting her judgment and responding to her commands without hesitation. The first encounter came swiftly. A patrol of Zythurian warriors moved through a narrow alley, unaware of the human strike team waiting in ambush. Salara signaled, and the soldiers advanced, striking with swift, coordinated movements. The Zythurians were strong and fast, but humans had the advantage of unpredictability. They fell back in disarray, disrupted by the sudden and precise attack. Salara pressed forward, her blade gleaming in the dim light. She moved with a fluid grace, every step calculated, every strike purposeful. Her training and determination allowed her to anticipate enemy movements, deflecting attacks and creating openings for her soldiers. She did not fight recklessly, she fought strategically, using both skill and intelligence to gain the upper hand. As they advanced, the strike team encountered heavier resistance. Zythurian exosuits glowed faintly with energy, and their weapons discharged pulses that lit the streets with blue light. The humans adapted, using the ruined buildings for cover, setting traps, and coordinating attacks to isolate enemy units. Salara moved through the chaos, directing her forces and engaging the enemy when necessary. At one point, a group of Zythurians attempted to flank the humans from a side street. Salara anticipated the maneuver, leading a small squad to intercept them. The clash was intense. Energy pulses met steel, and the sound of combat echoed through the empty streets. Salara's blade found its mark with precision, disabling the alien exosuits and forcing the enemy to retreat. Her soldiers followed her lead, their confidence strengthened by her skill and bravery. The battle intensified as they reached the northern gate. The Zythurians had fortified their position with automated turrets and energy barriers. Salara assessed the situation quickly, recognizing the need to neutralize these defenses before they could halt the human advance. She directed engineers to deploy disruptor devices that interfered with the enemy technology, while her soldiers provided cover. With the defenses weakened, Salara led the charge through the gate. The Zythurians were caught off guard by the audacity and speed of the human assault. Humans moved through the chaos with coordination, using ingenuity and courage to overcome technological superiority. Salara's leadership was evident in every maneuver, every decision, and every strike. In the midst of the battle, Salara faced the Zythurian commander for the first time. He was a towering figure, clad in advanced armor, with eyes that seemed to pierce through her determination. The commander moved with precision, his attacks calculated and powerful. Salara met him with calm resolve, knowing that this confrontation could determine the outcome of the battle. The duel was intense, each strike of her blade met with energy shields and counterattacks. Salara relied on agility, intelligence, and intuition to anticipate the commander's moves. She did not simply react. She created opportunities, exploiting weaknesses in his defenses and forcing him to adjust. The battle was not just physical but mental, a contest of strategy and willpower. Around them, the human forces pressed forward, pushing the Zythurians back from the city. Salara's presence inspired her soldiers to fight with unmatched courage. They adapted to every challenge, using their environment and resourcefulness to overcome the enemy. The Zythurians were skilled, but they were unprepared for the resilience and unpredictability of human tactics. Salara's duel with the commander reached a turning point when she noticed a pattern in his attacks. He relied heavily on repetitive movements, trusting his superior strength and technology to overwhelm opponents. Recognizing this, she baited him into overextending, then struck with precision, disabling his energy shield and forcing him to retreat. Her soldiers seized the advantage, pressing the attack and driving the enemy further back. With the Zythurian forces retreating, Salara did not pause. She continued to coordinate the battlefield, ensuring that every area of engagement was managed effectively. The humans pressed their advantage, reclaiming territory and securing strategic positions. The northern gate, once under threat, was now firmly under human control. As the night wore on, the city began to stabilize. Fires were extinguished, defensive positions reinforced, and injured soldiers attended to. Citizens emerged cautiously, witnessing the bravery of their princess and the effectiveness of human strategy. Salara moved among them, offering reassurance and encouragement, her presence a symbol of hope and resilience. In the council chamber, she reviewed reports with Corin and her advisors. "The Zythurians have been pushed back for now," she said, "but we cannot underestimate them. They will regroup and strike again, perhaps in larger numbers. We must be ready for anything." Corin nodded, admiration in his eyes. "Your leadership has inspired not just your soldiers, but the entire city. Humans are fighting not only with weapons, but with spirit. That is something no enemy can predict or overcome easily." Salara allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. The battle had tested her, her strategies, and her courage. She had faced the enemy directly, led her people with decisiveness, and emerged victorious in this engagement. Yet she knew the war was far from over. The Zythurians were relentless, and the coming battles would demand even more from her and her people. As dawn approached, Salara returned to the palace balcony. The city lay quiet, the immediate threat subdued, but the shadow of the Zythurian fleet still loomed above. She drew her blade and gazed at the stars, the faint glimmer of alien ships visible in orbit. She thought of the soldiers who had fought alongside her, the citizens who had trusted her leadership, and the future of Urindor. Her mind was clear, her resolve unwavering. She had faced the enemy directly and proven that humans could fight with courage, strategy, and resilience. The battle had shown that no technology or alien force could predict or replicate the adaptability and determination of humanity. Salara knew that the next phase of the conflict would be even more dangerous. The Zythurians would return with greater force, their tactics refined and their determination sharpened. But she would not falter. She would stand with her people, leading them with both strength and wisdom. She sheathed her blade, her gaze remaining fixed on the horizon. War had reached her throne, yet she had drawn her blade and taken action. She had proven that leadership required courage, and that true power came from the ability to inspire and protect. The city slept, though lightly, for the memory of battle lingered in every street. Citizens trusted that their princess would face the challenges ahead with bravery and intelligence. And in the palace, Princess Salara prepared for the coming day, knowing that the real test of humanity's spirit and ingenuity was still to come. Tomorrow, she would lead once more. The Zythurians would challenge them again, but humanity would stand unbroken. And when war reached her throne, Princess Salara would be ready. The city of Urindor was tense with anticipation. The battles of the past days had left their marks, scorched buildings, shattered streets, and citizens exhausted from fear and labor. But the human spirit remained unbroken. Princess Salara walked through the palace halls, her blade hanging at her side. The weight of the coming day pressed on her shoulders, but she felt calm and focused. Today, the Zythurians would make their greatest attempt to seize the throne, and she would meet them head-on. Admiral Corin stood beside her, reviewing battle reports from the fleet and the ground forces. "Their numbers are greater than before," he said quietly. "They will throw everything they have at us. Are you ready, Princess?" Salara's eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "We have prepared, Corin. Our defenses are strong and our people are brave. We fight not because we must, but because we will. Humanity will not bow to fear." Outside, the Zythurian fleet loomed in the sky like a dark storm, their ships blocking sunlight and casting shadows over the city. From the palace, Salara could see the advance teams preparing to land, their ships descending with precision. The air was thick with the energy of anticipation. Citizens looked to the palace, knowing that their princess would lead them in this final struggle. Solara moved to the command deck, where holographic displays showed the battlefield in real time. Her troops were positioned strategically throughout the city, using every building, street, and tunnel to their advantage. Energy shields hummed along defensive walls, and engineers moved swiftly to reinforce weak points. Every human soldier was ready, guided by the careful planning and leadership of the princess. Their landing crafts are beginning descent near the northern and eastern districts, Solara said, her voice calm but commanding. We must strike decisively, using both defense and counterattack. Remember, humans adapt. They cannot predict our moves entirely. That is our strength. Her orders were clear and precise. Small squads moved to intercept the Zythurian advance teams, while larger forces took positions to cover key strategic points. Solara led a strike team herself, descending into the streets with her blade ready. She would not stay behind the command deck. She would fight alongside her people. The first wave of Zythurian troops landed in the northern district. Automated turrets opened fire, energy beams cutting across the streets. Solara's squad moved with practiced coordination, dodging attacks, using debris for cover, and returning fire with precision. The Zythurians were strong, their exosuits granting them speed and endurance, but humans used ingenuity and unpredictability to gain the advantage. Solara led her squad through narrow alleys, flanking the enemy forces. Her blade flashed as she deflected attacks and created openings for her soldiers. Each strike was calculated, each movement precise. Her presence inspired those around her, reinforcing the courage and determination of her team. In the eastern district, a larger squadron of Zythurian troops attempted to break through the human defenses. Solara quickly assessed the situation, realizing that the enemy relied heavily on coordinated maneuvers that assumed predictable human responses. She signaled to engineers to deploy disruptor devices, interfering with the aliens, communication, and coordination. Chaos spread among the Zythurian forces as humans exploited every opening, striking with precision and creativity. The battle intensified as the main Zythurian force moved toward the palace itself. Ships hovered above the city, unleashing energy strikes and deploying more ground troops. Solara did not falter. She gathered her elite strike team and moved through the city, intercepting enemy forces before they could reach the palace gates. Civilians were guided to safety along secure routes, and soldiers fought with courage and ingenuity, adapting to the evolving battlefield. Amid the chaos, Solara encountered the Zythurian commander once more. He had recovered from their previous duel and now moved with a commanding presence among his troops. The two locked eyes across the battlefield, understanding that their confrontation would decide the outcome of the war. The commander advanced with his exosuit glowing, his attacks precise and overwhelming. Solara met him with calm determination, deflecting strikes with her blade and creating openings with her movements. The duel was a dance of skill and strategy, each anticipating the other's moves. Around them, the battle raged, humans and Zythurians clashing in a struggle of strength, skill, and willpower. Solara noticed a pattern in the commander's strategy. He relied on repeated sequences, trusting his technology and power to dominate. Recognizing this, she adapted her movements, baiting him into overextending. With a swift, calculated strike, she disabled part of his exosuit's energy shield, forcing him to retreat. Her soldiers seized the moment, pushing back the enemy and reclaiming lost ground. The human forces advanced as one, coordinated and unyielding. Solara moved through the battlefield, guiding attacks, reinforcing weak points, and ensuring that every area of engagement was managed. Humans used ingenuity at every turn, exploiting the rigidity of the Zythurian tactics. Where machines and algorithms failed, human creativity and adaptability prevailed. In the heart of the city, the palace itself became a symbol of human resilience. Solara's presence there inspired soldiers and citizens alike. She did not merely defend. She led offensives, striking decisively at key enemy positions. Every successful maneuver, every reclaimed street reinforced the courage of the people. By mid-afternoon, the Zythurians began to falter. Their disciplined formations broke under the unpredictable tactics of humans. Energy beams missed their targets, automated drones collided with obstacles, and morale among the alien forces wavered. Solara pressed forward, directing her troops to consolidate gains and push the enemy further back. In the northern plaza, the final confrontation came. Solara faced the Zythurian commander again, this time with her forces surrounding them. She had prepared for this moment, understanding that strategy and courage together could determine victory. The commander struck with precision, but Solara anticipated his moves, countering and creating opportunities. With a swift maneuver, she disarmed him, forcing him to retreat. Her soldiers advanced, driving the remaining enemy forces out of the city. The Zythurians, unable to adapt to the unpredictable and coordinated human tactics, began to withdraw, retreating to their ships. The battle that had seemed impossible was finally turning in humanity's favor. The citizens of Urindor emerged from shelters, cheering as the humans reclaimed their city. Fires were extinguished, and the wounded were attended to. Soldiers and civilians alike celebrated not only survival, but the courage and determination that had led to victory. Princess Solara moved through the city, her blade at her side, offering reassurance and gratitude to those who had fought and persevered. In the council chamber, Solara and Corin reviewed reports. "The enemy has retreated," she said, her voice calm but triumphant. "Our city stands and our people remain safe, but we must not become complacent. They may return and we must be ready." Corin nodded, pride in his eyes. "Your leadership has inspired all of Urindor. You have proven that humans fight not only with weapons but with spirit and ingenuity. That is a power no alien or machine can replicate." Solara allowed herself a moment of reflection. She had faced the enemy directly, led her people with courage and intelligence, and emerged victorious. She had drawn her blade when war reached her throne and used it not merely as a weapon, but as a symbol of human resilience. From the palace balcony, she gazed at the horizon. The Zythurian fleet lingered in orbit, no longer threatening immediate destruction but still a presence in the skies. She knew the war was not over entirely, but the victory of the day proved that humanity's spirit was unyielding. Humans had adapted, persevered, and triumphed against a seemingly superior foe. Solara's thoughts turned to the citizens, the soldiers, and the families she had sworn to protect. Every life mattered, and every act of courage had contributed to the defense of their world. She felt a surge of hope and determination. The Zythurians had learned that humanity could not be defeated by fear, intimidation, or even superior technology. The city of Urindor began the slow process of recovery. Citizens rebuilt homes, repaired streets, and tended to the wounded. Soldiers strengthened defenses and maintained vigilance. Throughout it all, Solara remained at the heart of the effort, a guiding presence, a symbol of courage, and a leader who had faced the enemy with her people at her side. At night, the city was calm. The stars above twinkled, and the faint glimmer of the Zythurian fleet could be seen in orbit, a reminder of challenges yet to come. Solara stood on the palace balcony, her blade in hand, reflecting on the battle and the bravery of her people. She knew that tomorrow might bring new threats, but she also knew that humans would face them with ingenuity, courage, and unity. War had reached her throne, and she had drawn her blade. She had led with strategy, skill, and spirit, proving that humanity's resilience could overcome even the most formidable foes. The people of Urindor looked to her with trust and admiration, inspired by her courage and determination. As she looked out over the city, Solara realized that the true strength of humanity was not in weapons or technology, but in the will to protect, to adapt, and to persevere. The Zythurians had underestimated that strength, and they had paid the price. The princess sheathed her blade, her gaze lingering on the horizon. Urindor had survived, its people victorious. Humanity had triumphed through courage, creativity, and unity. And Princess Solara knew that as long as humans held to those values, no enemy could ever truly conquer them. The night was quiet, the city at peace, and for the first time in days, Solara allowed herself a moment of rest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but the lessons of this battle would remain. Humans had shown that when war reached their throne, they would not surrender, they would fight, they would adapt, and they would prevail. And so, the city of Urindor stood tall, its people alive and unbroken, led by a princess who had drawn her blade and reminded the universe that humanity's spirit could never be defeated. When war reached her throne, the human princess drew her blade.